Hello, friends. Welcome back. I hope you're doing well. Today, I want to talk about something that, has been coming up a lot lately. Right now, the time that I'm recording this is very close to the holidays. So this is a topic that has been coming up between forgiveness and boundaries. You know, kind of differentiating between the two. How do they go hand in hand and what do they really mean? So regardless of when you're watching this, this really will apply to you at any point of the year. But with the holidays coming, I really wanted to get this message out there so that you all can take a listen and hopefully it'll help get you through the next few weeks, maybe months of the holiday season. So the first thing I wanted to just really reiterate, and you're going to hear me repeat this a few times throughout this video because I really want you to understand that forgiveness does not mean forget. Forgiveness does not always mean just forget what happened and immediately go back to the way that things used to be. In my opinion, it's a very problematic narrative that's around forgiveness, is that it means forgiving someone means you have to allow the relationship to immediately go back to what it was before. Insert how they hurt you, situation that occurred, maybe a boundary or line that they crossed. And it could be accumulative, things. It may not just be one necessarily one thing, but it could be accumulative of several things that happened over time that are really just standing out to you right now that you're feeling you're just not willing to deal with anymore, accept anymore. And that's where boundaries come into place. So, really understanding that whenever there is a desire or a need or a decision, arising to forgive someone, it's typically an indication that boundaries need to be reevaluated or evaluated. Maybe they had never been established in this relationship. So this is usually the indication that it's time. It's time to really, evaluate, are there clear boundaries set in place? And if there are not, I think it's time to establish them. So what does that really look like? So forgiveness, I want you to understand forgiveness is not always for the other person. There's a saying that I use a lot is learning to forgive an apology you may never receive. And I use that term because a lot of times you may, be required to practice forgiveness and the person really isn't sorry. They're not offering an apology. Maybe they don't see things or feel things the same as you do. And, maybe they just don't feel that they did anything wrong. Right. And, that is a whole other subject or topic in and of itself is, perception versus reality. However, if there is a situation where you feel, this person has hurt you or crossed a boundary or a line with you, and you're, kind of toying back and forth with practicing forgiveness or not, the answer is always going to be to forgive. That is for you. Just to kind of, lay this out for you, all illness, think of the word disease, is really dis-ease within the body. Carrying any anger or resentment or any form of a grudge or any turmoil within our bodies whatsoever can lead to dis-ease within the body. It can lead to physical illness. It can lead to long-term patterns in relationships if we're not setting clear boundaries and, really sticking to them in our current relationships. We develop these patterns over time until we really decide that we're going to create these boundaries and we're going to stick with them. So learning to really, practice forgiveness in a space of unconditional love. I forgive this insert blank, right? I forgive this situation. However, there's a however. However, I am no longer willing to go back to this space. I am no longer available for this type of energy. And, I'm speaking very general and very broad because this can apply to many different situations. This can apply to, relationships with partners. This can apply to family relationships. This can apply to friendships, work relationships, employers. There may be a situation at work where you're feeling taken advantage of or, treated very poorly. And for me, I I've always kind of hopped around between different jobs because we all know, we all heard the saying, oh, there's one in every office. There's always that one person in the office. Well, I'm here to tell you that very well may be, but that doesn't mean that you have to accept that. That doesn't mean that you have to tolerate that in your life, especially in your career, your work environment. You have every opportunity, and it is your birthright to be happy, to be at peace, to find joy, to create abundance just by doing what you love, just by being you. And so creating this boundary in the workspace that I am not available for that type of energy, it does two things. It can either, create this boundary where that person really isn't able to cross it because you learn not to take things personally. It's really not about you. It's more about them, right? So you can create that form of a boundary, or you can create the boundary that says, I'm not going to work in a workplace. I prefer to work for myself because I set my own hours and I do my own thing and I show up in the way that I please. And if I want to wear pajama pants, or I want to wear, stretchy pants, whatever it is that I want to wear, I can do so. And I can leave to, attend field trips for my kids, and I can do all of these things. Boundaries are what works for you. So I'm not here to tell you what boundaries that need to be created or how to create them. I'm just here to really encourage you to take a look at current situations and decide where maybe boundaries or stronger boundaries need to be established or reevaluated. So if it's family, if it's work, those boundaries in those situations are going to look very different. Now, with the holidays approaching, I'm getting a lot of questions when it comes to family. Now, I could do a different video on each of these topics. So I'm being, again, very general, very broad in what I'm speaking here, but really just more so to get the message across. So there's a very big difference between forgiving and forgetting. Okay. We're not asking you to just forget everything that happened and move on as if, everything is fine and just immediately go back to normal. Forgiveness can be, I'm no longer holding on to the feelings that I had about this situation. I'm ready to release this and understand that this really isn't a reflection of me. This is a reflection of what is happening inside of them, something that they need to work through, a piece of them that they need to heal. And it's my responsibility to see which part of me was triggered by this and why. How can I heal that version of myself? For me, an important lesson that I learned, which a friend, was mirroring to me and really helped bring into my awareness, is that I was just really taking a lot of things personally that didn't have anything to do with me. And so, by doing so, my feelings were getting hurt. And I was getting upset and I was being triggered in different ways. My feelings of unworthiness, not good enough, right? And so as we move through those feelings and emotions, we continue to project back onto that other person that's making us feel that way. And so it's really important for us to take the time to really step back and discern, is this person hurting me, or am I allowing myself to be hurt because of things that have happened in the past? And this is where it becomes that kind of trickle effect, where if we don't create those healthy boundaries in this relationship and we tolerate it here, it starts to trickle in all of our other relationships as we move forward. So this is where the boundaries come in place. It's really okay for us to decide what type of energy or what type of behaviors and experiences we are available for, whether it be in a relationship, with an intimate partner, a relationship with parents, siblings, cousins, family members, friendships. I've had friendships in the past that I thought were, one of the most amazing friends. And as I really sat back and discerned what was happening here, it really started feeling like abuse, a form of abuse, a form of toxicity, and that can happen. I mean, think about high school, right? Like if you think back to high school, we've all probably had toxic friends in high school, the friends that it's like, you could tell them anything, but as soon as they got in a bad mood, next thing you know, you're in there. What were those books called, like burn books or something, right? Where they like write things horrible about each other and write things on the bathroom stalls. My goodness, like that never happened to me, but I'm just saying, these things happen. And so we are all familiar with these types of experiences. And as we grow older and we move through life, if we don't learn to create those healthier boundaries with people, this is something that I'm constantly talking to my daughter about, but as teenagers, They need to kind of learn things on their own terms. They don't want to hear from mama all the time. But as we move forward, and as we grow up, we have to really learn where to create stronger and healthier boundaries. And what is it that we're willing to accept? What is it that we're willing to, have in our space and our experiences at work, at home? With the holidays coming, it's very possible that you may be around family members that you've just decided to kind of part ways with. And maybe you're okay just seeing them on the holidays. Maybe you're okay with just seeing them every couple of months. And, there are going to be others where you want to talk on the phone every day, right? That's okay. It's okay. So when we're practicing and we're talking about forgiveness, we're understanding that there are parts of ourselves and parts within that person that maybe are mirroring something back to us. Maybe they're mirroring something back to us that we need to heal within ourselves. Or maybe we just need to not take it personally because whatever is happening over here is their own thing that they need to work on, that they need to heal through. Maybe it's a past trauma of theirs that they need to work through. So again, our responsibility is really discerning which parts of us are being triggered and why. So it's really going to help us learn to practice forgiveness with ease, learn to practice that, unconditional love in the sense of I can love you where you are. I said to a friend one time, I will always love you. It doesn't mean I'm always going to like you, right? I don't have to like everything that you're doing, but I will always love you. I think as you move through this awakening process and really tapping into the fact that we are all one, right? Everything is energy. We are all a part of one. That we understand that what is broken in them may also be broken in us and the next person, and that we are all of the same. So learning to love them where they are. We all chose our experiences here. And the timeline that we are on may be different than the timeline of the next person, and it is not our job to force or control or decide how that person is moving through their timeline, through their journey here. They have their own life lessons that they need to learn, as do we. And if we're spending too much time focusing on other people's timelines and other people's journeys, we are so far off track from our own. It takes a lot more to rein it all back in and stay laser focused on our journey, on our tasks here that we need to complete, on our lessons that we need to learn. And the further out that we get as we're trying to pivot and come back around and come back in, we're going to continue to hit those same bumps as we're coming back, right? We're developing these patterns that keep repeating themselves throughout our lives because we're too focused out this way when we need to be focused back within. And when in doing so, you're really able to release that anger, release the resentment, release the sadness, release that hurt, and truly be able to love a person where they are. Now, I am not saying, forgive and forget everything that a person has done because they have things they have to work on. It could be that simple for you. I understand that for everyone, it's not that simple. So this is going to be a process. There is a lot of work to be done. In my book, Aligned, a 90-day guided journey, you can find that on Amazon. It's linked in my link tree here. You can actually practice a forgiveness practice, a ritual. There's an exercise in that book that explains forgiveness and gives you a full ritual that you can follow through with. Some of the things, though, that I will share with you here, a few tips, maybe, when you're evaluating these boundaries, there are a few questions that you can ask yourself. Okay, so I just want to share those questions with you. The first is the person who hurt me a trusted friend or partner? Is this the first time that they've hurt me? Something that you can really reflect on. If the answer is yes, then it could be that, maybe this is just requiring a conversation, expressing your feelings. That could be the boundary, is that you need to open a line of communication and say, listen, I really want to make amends here. I want to be able for us to move forward, but this really hurt me and here's how. And it could be that simple. And then creating that boundary that in the future, I'm no longer available for that treatment. I'm no longer available for that. Is the person who hurt me multiple times in the same way, even after numerous conversations? where do we go from here? This is where you need to discern, are you still available for this? Or is it time to kind of sever that tie, love the person where they are, understand that, you know, it's probably time to let this go. It's probably time to close that door. Again, this is going to be a process, right? That's not something that we can just close the door. Maybe for some you can, but for most people, you're not going to be able to just close the door, right? So this is going to be a process. It's going to be a journey. And I really recommend digging into some forgiveness exercises, meditations, prayer, to really tap into that forgiveness and unconditional love. But the most important piece of this is releasing and letting go of the ill feelings inside of us. Remember that dis-ease leads to a lot of other things. Another question that you can reflect on is, has this person who has hurt me crossed a line that is this just a line that it's too hard to come back from? Maybe it's abuse. It could be physical. It could be emotional. It could be mentally. It could be spiritually. It can be financially. You know, financial manipulation, these are forms of abuse. So is there a line that was crossed that you are just not willing to go back from? So these are some things that you can really, really reflect on. If this person is not someone that is very close to you, and maybe this is just a coworker, and maybe this is a situation at work where you're just tired of the way that you're being treated, are you willing to have the uncomfortable but necessary conversation? Or do you want to move on? Do you want to find another job? Do you want to find another way of, you know, providing an income for yourself and your family? So there's always decisions to make. There's always choices to make, but it does require us to take that time and really surrender and tap in and find out within ourselves what is required of us. Letting go of the anger, letting go of the frustration, letting go of the resentment that's surrounding it, the emotion surrounding it, and really decide if this is a need for a boundary to be set, or are we just closing that door? Boundaries are still going to be there, but are we going to close that door now with the new understanding of how we're going to move forward? In the future, I will not accept this. I will recognize that red flag from the beginning, right? We're not going to try to dye it pink and call it highlighter. We are going to recognize that as a red flag, and we are going to shut that door immediately, right? We are going to create that boundary from the beginning. So, you know, when you are practicing forgiveness and creating boundaries, I just want to share a couple of things that may feel better, right? Maybe you're like, I'm not going to close the door, but I just want to create a boundary. Here's how you can do that. You know, it's very easy to say certain things like, I'm working through my feelings and I just cannot be in an intimate relationship with this person right now. You know, I've forgiven this person. However, I'm, you know, not really available for one-on-one time, phone conversations. Maybe you only feel comfortable seeing them at holidays. Maybe you only feel comfortable seeing them a few times a year at big events, but this isn't someone that you're really available for that more intimate personal connection with like you used to. As you're working through this forgiveness, you are just going to withhold kind of vulnerable, very personable information with this person, right? Or from your family. Maybe it's just a matter of, while I work through this process, I'm not available for this. And it's important to really create these boundaries from the beginning, not after you work through this process, because remember, we teach people how to treat us. We teach people what we are available for, but we are always in control. You have the power and the ability to change that at any given time. So if there's something that you have been available for and you decide that you are no longer willing to be available for that, you can decide that right now. You can stop answering the phone. You can stop replying to the text. You can stop engaging with the conversation. It always leads to an argument, right? You can stop engaging with that. And as you work through this process, you can say, I am not available at all for this. And once you have worked through it and you have kind of discerned and decided, this is where I am going to lead with this, this is the boundary that I'm going to set, well, then you can have the conversation and explain. This made me feel this. And in order for me to not feel this, I need to do this. So again, friends, forgiveness is not about forgetting and moving forward. Forgiveness is about, I am no longer willing to allow this situation to negatively impact my life, my physical body, my emotional body, my spiritual body. I'm creating healthy boundaries, and I'm only willing to move forward in a new way, in a new light that feels good to me. That is what forgiveness is. Forgiveness is never for the other person. It is always for us. And you'll be surprised as you practice forgiveness and you really embody true unconditional love, loving people where they are, but understanding that where they are may need to be at a distance for right now. It's completely okay. So I am here just to share that little bit of information with you and give you permission to create that boundary, close that door, tap in, love them, and release that dis-ease within the mind and within the body so that you can continue forward in a healthy way and no longer allow this external circumstance to, manipulate your energy and jeopardize your peace.